So I want to say a special good evening to all who have joined on Reggae Global Radio, as well as my peoples on TikTok. Want to say greetings to all who have joined on YouTube. And of course, a special welcome to all those who are tuned in from the Coda Network, your Caribbean version of Netflix. It's a pleasure to say to you that today, we have a special guest. We will be talking about economics. So we do have economist Ralston Hyman, and from all the messages and indications, we are going to be educated in terms of where we are as a society. And of course, when it comes to current affairs, I have to tell you this: we are at a place where we must understand what we are facing as a nation. I can say this, that there were persons who talking directly to the just born. You just born the other day. So if you're about 18 to 20, you don't really know what's going on. There's too many of us dying. But way before that, I just want people to know that if I have to do this every single week, if you talk in economy, you must big up and respect Dr. Peter Phillips, the former leader of opposition of the People's National Party. Under the Portia Simpson-led administration, they took Jamaica to a they rescued Jamaica. And so from the IMF restrictions to the deal, the economy was stabilized. So if ever there was an economic captain, Dr. Peter Phillips was the man. And I can tell you there were many other competent persons at the time that had formed part of that administration. Some of them are still around now that form a part of the current opposition. And I can say we're going to have that conversation because, when it comes to life and when it comes to, we had a beauty queen one time, Michelle Moody. She never bothered say mathematics, she just said maths. So if you're not good at maths and you're not good at the numbers, sometimes statistics can just really, which is like add maths, it can go over your head and it is not necessarily matching along with the realities of what's on the ground. So what is our economy like today? What are we really facing, and how you feeling as a Jamaican trying to survive in a free and democratic society where the money just not flowing through your hands? To put things in context before my guests even arrive, I'm going to say this again. My team, and credit to Ishmael and company, who now Nzinga, who came together, part of the team, campaign team, launched a GoFundMe account. To my surprise, shout out to Andre. They raised money, more than $1 million so far. Jamaica, not US, for the flood relief in Portland Eastern. It's that time of year where the people, respectfully, not being properly represented, have a lot of needs. And when we say people, we know how the political lines can be drawn. And if you're not running behind one side, you are neglected and you are hurt. So as a young, advanced, competent candidate, it is incumbent on me to ensure that all persons, doesn't matter what side you're on, whether you're JLP, PNP, you're a Jamaican first. And people must recognize that when it comes to sufferation, everybody feel it. And the assistance must come from our brothers and sisters. The diaspora has always been the biggest support when it comes to Jamaica. They are our older siblings that were sent out in the work while we go school. That's what it feels like. And I must tell you this: the response, big up Pink Wall because you posted it, and the comments just all across because of the lack of aptitude, the need to just understand and appreciate the purpose of GoFundMe, the purpose of ensuring that if you're helping, the platform is there to reach out to persons all across the world that are able to provide assistance. Now the assistance is coming in and people are upset and saying that I beg, I'm up on TikTok, I beg, and I'm a beggar. Just note to self, Jamaica is a country of beggars. Um, we are still a third world country, and so we get assistance all across the world, funding from all type of organizations, and from time to time individuals will always participate. When Beryl came, I recall NCB led by Michael Luchin said that everybody, when you donate, he would match. It is always a situation. Shout out to the donors when it comes to the tablet drive, who have undertaken to match anytime somebody purchases a tablet, they match one. That's a part of raising funds and advocating for the well-being of people and especially the future of Jamaica, which is the children. I take absolutely no offense to persons who really don't understand and have capacity of what a human rights attorney really is and how important it is to advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves. I think that however you feel about whichever party you represent, it's a reflection on you. And I'm not going to use word bad mind and stuff like that. I just realized that there are persons that have minimal understanding of how the dynamics of ensuring that the least among us is not suffering, how it works. Certainly during my time when I was growing up, even when you was watching cartoon on JBC, which was the only station at the time, they had all these commercials and they used to have the African kids, and I don't know why them always have fly around them, and I don't know why them belly always bang, but they said 10 cents a day can save a child. Donate today. They go as far as, if you know about Peter, they tell you how to adopt a animal. They go into the universe and they say you can pay for a star and name it. Anything you want to do, but I am ensuring that the people who I'm advocating for and represent, who call me every day, who are having personal issues, you will never understand the joy on a child's face when they get their own tablet in a modern society to be able to participate in homework, access to information that changes their trajectory. So those of you who want to remain in the weak education spectrum, that's on you. But I will not sit and allow young people to suffer from that. And furthermore, parents who were not expecting a flood, who have to now use limited resources, scarce resources, to ensure that they are making sure that their family is okay. We are here to help. This is not a political mission. This is a human rights mission. That being said, there is a GoFundMe out there. Eastern Portland, Isaac Buchanan GoFundMe. And you can take the time as you are here. You like, subscribe to this channel. And at your leisure, you can donate. Whether you're in the UK, whether you're in the United States, Canada, Australia, all the places that you're coming from, feel free to donate to the GoFundMe. It's on the Instagram page for those of you who don't have it. And like I say, you support the cause. It's on you. Respect to those who is moved to help. And I'm gonna continue because one thing I can tell you, me now ask Christ. When it comes to the law, I'm not guided by emotions. I know where the legality of anything that I'm doing is done, and I don't act outside the law. So I'm not one of them who will be opening 28 bank accounts to circumvent the law. I am not one of those persons who pretend that the law as it is insufficient and inadequate. It is those who are put in place to execute and ensure that the society runs in accordance with the Constitution that run afoul of the law. I will just leave it at that. So it's a matter of you. So I'm not having no conversations with people who never took the time to, at least if you love law, to try to get a degree and become a lawyer. It's there for everybody. And I encourage everybody. What I won't do is argue with the internet lawyers and the people who seem to know everything. And at the end of the day, you're always wrong because you're not in love with the law. You're filled with emotion. Now, that being said, the economy is in a bad place. It's shrinking as we speak. Evidence of that, your beloved finance minister has found a way to exit. His exit strategy was for personal achievement. And while we are proud, many questions are left to answer. We have what was an incompetent minister of education, which has found herself as a minister of finance. Disclaimer, that is her area. So just like how I boast about the law, not much people can really contest her in her area. I'm just saying it like that. Save and except for on the scale of integrity and ensuring that when it comes to governance, you service the people, that will be another issue that has to be addressed. So now, somebody say, made it on time. I'm seeing all of the comments, and yeah, blessings to you as well. For those of you who are Reggae Global Radio, you know how it is already. You guys always make it fun. I really, really appreciate you. As well as those watching on the Coda Network. For some strange reason, I don't want to love it over Coda and want to make my numbers on YouTube look a little bit because I want to pack up over there because Lexi is so beautiful. Shout out to Dion as well. But the importance of what I'm saying is, listen, I never ever, where context matters is concerned, remember people, we are here to put things in context, enhance our critical thinking skills, and that is why we get the experts. I could sit here and talk about economics and all of that, but you see, true, me can tell you, I have no reason to lie. I am not the expert, but them say Tom drunk, but Tom no fool. I can't see so much people suffering, and I can't see so much people going through hardship and pretend like I'm gonna go on the bandwagon and say, oh, Jamaica is so in an excellent place. I look at the US dollar, I look what the BOJ does to stabilize the dollar, I look what's happening in Trinidad, I look at how tight they are with the US dollar across the Caribbean. I look at all of that and say, you know something? It is very, very difficult to appreciate the difficulties that's happening. So difficult to appreciate the difficulties in Jamaica and whether these things are fictitious. The next thing I'm going to say is be prepared to learn, because our guest is one who not controversial, just very factual and very blunt. If you hear him on radio, if you see him across the internet, you know Ralston Hyman he doesn't mince words, or he minces words. Which one? But he has no time for niceties when it comes to his area of expertise. And I'll be here to ask him the questions, and you can use the time and use the comment section, and I will highlight the questions. And for those of you who have found yourself over here to be very disrespectful, and those people who are sexually excited and type these things about their sexual fantasies, there are psychologists all over to help you with your inner deficiencies and your identities. We see you and we understand. We see you on Twitter. We see you all over the internet. and we know you two are suffering, and we know how you get your money and why it is imperative that you do your social media keyboard badness. So let's, without further ado, let's start the show. I hope that work. And remember, people, use the GoFundMe account and send your donation today at the GoFundMe account. And ask me if you don't know. All right.
That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I've heard them say life much better, you live it your own way.
So our guest is here with us. Greetings.
Blessings, man.
And welcome to Context Matters. Now,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
going to ask you, Mr. Hyman, to tell our contextualizers a little bit about yourself before we get into the serious economical discussion.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for the last 36 years, So we span all finance ministers, all governments. So really have a whole lot of experience in these matters. We are also a member of the Economic Program Oversight Committee, which was established.
Your audio is a little bit shaky.
You heard me?
Yeah, I think your internet is going in and out, but go ahead.
Yeah, as I was saying, we have been doing this thing for the last 36 years. We have interacted with all the finance ministers of Jamaica over a long period of time. And we are also a foundation member of the Economic Program Oversight Committee, which was established by Dr. Peter Phillips in 2013 to ensure that we successfully navigated the toughest IMF agreement we have had since we became a member of the IMF on February 21st, 1963.
Okay. So the first question then that I'm constrained to ask you is the Jamaica economy going in the right direction?
No, we're going in the wrong direction. What we're doing and what the sycophants have done is to elevate the reduction as the debt as the primary objective of macroeconomic policy. The primary objective of macroeconomic policy is to improve the quality of life of our people. So we had a finance minister that was only focused on one target, bringing the debt to GDP ratio down. The debt to GDP ratio is a ratio. It means that you can either increase the value of the economy by producing more, or you can focus on the debt alone. So what the finance minister was doing was just focusing on reducing the debt rather than expanding the economy. And that is why right now the Planning Institute reported that the economy declined by 2.8% during the third quarter. This is the first time that the economy is declining by so much in 15 years. So the first quarter, we flatlined 1.4%, second quarter 0.2%, and the third quarter we were down by 2.8%. That is coming on the back of 10 consecutive quarters of deceleration in the rate of economic growth. Put it simply, a car is moving, but it was moving at a much slower pace because the engine not working and the car is finally shut down now.
Okay. So I've seen a poll, I think it was Don Anderson poll, that said 58% of persons said that the country was moving in the wrong direction. As a lay person, what would it look like when they say that the economy, the government of the day saying that the economy is moving in the right direction? In particular, the former minister of finance who exited, he had boasted about a lot of fancy stuff in terms of paying down the debt. A little research showed that he paid down the interest and the debt has actually ballooned or is more than it was since he had taken it over. Can you give me some clarity on that?
When he became finance minister, the debt was $2 trillion.
Yes.
We spent $3 trillion servicing the debt, and the debt is now $2.3 trillion, because while he's servicing, he's borrowing more because the economy is not growing and they have to borrow more money to continue the economy. So, for example, last year they borrowed $139 billion. This year they're borrowing $260 billion, 7.91% of GDP. So one thing that happened is that in 2013, when the People's National Party took office, the debt to GDP was 147%. We were locked out of the international capital markets. Peter Phillips had to walk with his resignation every day because the IMF was dissing us because of the bad performance that the previous administration did. So Phillips brought it down
Right.
to 120%. Yeah. And then in 2017, they changed the definition of the debt, took out the Bank of Jamaica debt and brought it down to about 80%. So his main focus was on paying down the debt rather than focusing on investing in the country's infrastructure. So the infrastructure degradation that we're talking about now, the roads, the schools, the hospitals, all those things were due to a continuous reduction of the capital budget while we spend more money to service the debt and bring down the debt to GDP ratio before time. Very little focus on the country's human capital and physical infrastructure. That is why the people are suffering so much.
So there is a consensus that the people are suffering. Now
Yeah.
there is in the space some I want to say contract auditor general would have said that there is some $3 trillion unaccounted for. I know
Mhm.
they just assist me in whether the trillion is Jamaican and the debt that we're speaking of is US. Just some context there.
No, no, we're talking about trillions of Jamaican dollars and the debt. We're talking about Jamaican dollar debt. Yeah. So we have a mixture of debt in terms of local debt and external debt. 62% of
Right.
the debt is denominated in United States dollars and the rest in Jamaican dollars.
Okay. Very, very well. Now,
Mhm.
they have said that Nigel Clarke, is or was the best finance minister that Jamaica has ever had, and he has rescued Jamaica. I just want to ask two things: rescue from what, and do you agree whether he was or is?
No, that's not true. Peter Phillips and Portia Simpson Miller rescued Jamaica from the devastation that that administration created between 2007 and 2012 when they mismanaged the economy due to the Great Recession and mismanaged the IMF agreement that we got locked out of the international capital markets. And Peter Phillips and Portia Simpson Miller and their team had to use their political capital to get Jamaica integrated back into the international capital markets. That's one. And as I said before, and as the people are seeing now, he can't be the greatest finance minister because he only concentrated on one variable, bringing down the debt to GDP ratio, while the country's infrastructure and human capital were rotting. And that
Mhm.
is why now he's exited and the economy is almost in a recession.
All right, you just use the word recession. For the
Mhm.
benefit of persons who really can't appreciate the significance of a recession. Can you just define for them or put into layman terms what is a recession and whether or not we're going in the direction of a Haiti if we are not careful?
Well, when you used to go to school, when you get a break from in the classroom and you go outside, go kickball and all of those things, you get recess. What we're seeing
Mhm.
now is a recession. It means that the economy is declining rather than growing. In economics, we define a recession as two consecutive quarters decline in real GDP. That is the total market value of all the final goods and services that you are producing, adjusted for inflation. So what we saw was in the first quarter of this year, the economy grew by only 1.4%. Then in the second quarter, it dipped down from 1.4 to 0.2. And then in the third quarter, we're a decline of 2.8%. And the Planning Institute is projecting that there will be a decline of more than 1% in the fourth quarter. Incidentally, the fourth quarter ends in 3 weeks' time. So we're
Mm.
almost there in a recession.
All right. So basically, you're saying it has been declining every quarter, and this one being the
Yes.
worst.
Yeah, man. 10 consecutive quarters of deceleration. Yeah.
Okay. So when it is when the government now is an election year is fast approaching, we can't even call it a year again because it's election month. That's where we're in that time, and we saw where at their 81st conference, that's the government of the Jamaica Labour Party, who is the government of the day. They have issued a whole bunch of goodies. The current finance minister, who respectfully was a horrible education minister, is saying that she initially, when she had that portfolio, she had a JPS goodie bag in her arsenals of tools for the Jamaican people, and she has resurrected it. And we see where they're giving kickbacks for JPS as well as National Water Commission. In addition, there's a $20,000 giveaway to those who, I'm using these things in layman terms. You'll put it in context, but is that something that this economy, as it is shrinking, can sustain, or is this just how? Let me not put any words in your mouth. Put context to those three things in combination, or if you want to
Okay,
isolate.
the finance minister now was state minister and the minister of finance in 2017, and then she went to the Ministry of Energy, where JPS was under her direct jurisdiction. So the question we're asking her, why she never implemented that measure then, since it was something that she was working on when she was in the Ministry of Finance. She subsequently went to the Ministry of Energy, and the question is why you never implemented that at that particular point in time. The 20,000 is a very dangerous situation. We see that as a vote buying exercise, because right now the agricultural sector is starving, down by 13.5% during the quarter. That 11.4 billion could have been used to rehabilitate the agricultural sector, or well as to help with the problems that we have in terms of road infrastructure. This is just a giving away of money, giving people a fish rather than helping them to fish. So it's just an election thing, and it is being funded by the 12 years receivables that the minister sold from the Norman Manley International Airport. So what we're doing is using future earnings to fund current consumption. That's a sign of bankruptcy.
All right, I'm glad you went there, because when it would mean that it's almost like a Ponzi scheme. There was a cash plus time a colint. I was not
I
around for
remember
that.
those days.
I heard about it,
We
and
were around with all of those. Yeah.
that scheme kind of crashed and people got arrested for it. So that conduct is always suspect. But is it a case where, given where the economy is, the danger of that is the effect of it on the US dollar is really what I want to ask about. I just don't know how to properly frame the question.
All right. Yeah, well, the effect of that on the US dollar, that will have some impact, because what people are going to do is to buy and consume goods, and we're not producing anything. So currently, what we're seeing up to yesterday, the Bank of Jamaica floated a 6.75% per annum certificate of deposit for $39 million in order to remove liquidity or move money out of the hands of the people to ease the pressure on the dollar. And what they got was some $49 billion instead. They also floated a treasury bill for $1.4 billion, and they got $6 billion instead. So what the Bank of Jamaica is doing is asking the people to bring their money to them, pay them an interest, 6% and change, in order to ease the pressure on the US dollar, because we are not earning enough foreign exchange, because we are not producing anything.
Mm-hmm. All right, I
Yep.
want you to in light of that, say to me, and let me give context before I ask that question. Trinidad, Barbados, Bahamas, they have all put in place some form of restrictions in terms of the US dollars and access to the public for the US dollar. And certainly, Trinidad's prime minister has said that he is not going to devalue his dollar, even though there was a call for him to do so. What, in your mind, is the actual value of the US dollars if we were to bring it to its true value? If you know, just wondering.
Well, I mean, that's a difficult one to project, because what we're seeing is that we operate a freely floating exchange rate where the demand and supply demand for and supply of the dollar is what determines the exchange rate. So we are more for those countries, Trinidad, Barbados, they are not following the IMF to the T. What we are doing
Mhm.
is following the IMF to the T. Everything that the IMF tells us, we have no ideas of our own, this administration. They do whatever the IMF tells them to do. So what they're operating is a freely floating exchange rate. And in order for that to work for the country, you'd have to be producing more goods and services for exports as well as for import substitution. What we're doing is that we're not producing anything, so we run these massive trade deficits, and those things lead to pressure on the dollar because we depend on the remittance flows and the tourism flows in order to pay that bill, and those flows are slowing down and will continue to slow down under our Trump administration. So what we have to do, what they have been doing, rather than producing, is removing Jamaican dollars from the system in order to stabilize the exchange rate, and that is why nobody has any money. Everybody
Okay.
broke because the government is taking the money out of the economy in order to protect the value of the exchange rate because they don't know how to increase production and productivity.
All right, but just beside man, you just say everybody broke, but them not just you never get $20,000.
No sir, no sir. I remember for paying the $20,000 of the receivables from the Norman Manley International Airport for 12 days down the road and give away. Please remember that your children's money.
I'm happy that you said that because here it
Yep.
is. We have had the last 8 years, 9 years, and counting with nothing for the people. I wanted to address the what was at the time when they were running the first time. The promise about the threshold, $150,000, and you stayed on a particular threshold, the tax break for that threshold. Was it
All right.
something? Was it workable? Was it doable? Or what was its effect on the economy?
The effect on the economy is that the people had to find $32 billion in taxes because they never had the money. And they use that as a gimmick to win the election after Peter Phillips and Portia Simpson Miller stabilized the economy. And as a result, they had to impose 32 billion in taxes on the people. That is why we get the taxes on petroleum. That is why we got the taxes on electricity. That is why we got what they call indirect taxes, where you pay the taxes every time you go to the supermarket because they never had the money to fund it and they use that money to fund it. So again, it was a scam.
Okay. A scam.
A scam.
Again,
Because they took back money from you. They took back money from you in order to give you money.
all right, but hold on. Um, then this thing where it said no new taxes, is that true?
Well, what they have been doing now is that they are confusing the people. So what Nigel Clarke did was to say, I do not have a new category of tax. Yeah? But the
Yes.
problem is that they're collecting more taxes because every time there's a price increase. So GCT is 15%. So if you pay 15% on $100, it's $15. But when the price of the good move to $110, 15% is more than $15. So they have been collecting more from the existing taxes rather than having to name a new category of taxes. And they're also borrowing more. So they use those things as the political con to con the people. Yeah? So they don't bring in a new category of tax, but they're collecting more taxes from the existing sources of taxes, and they're also borrowing more money.
Right. So the principle as it was, let me address let no, let me not go all around the place. You talk about new taxes. They said no new taxes, but there's an increase, there's a rise in the US dollar increase. So inflation is actually
Mm-hmm.
it's going up.
No, they're down now. They're down to 4.9% in
Inflation
October,
is going. All right. I'm
but
happy
that is
that you
still higher than that is still higher than the 3.7% that existed in 2016 when Peter Phillips and Portia Simpson Miller left office.
right. I'm glad
Yeah.
that you put that into context because here's the thing now. There was a 300% increase in salaries for members of parliament and as well
Mm-hmm.
as the
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the elite class, but I don't want to sound disrespectful. So you can guide me as to what is the correct thing to say. But the people at the top,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
given
man.
300%
The
increase.
politicians and the permanent secretaries and those people. Yeah.
Yes, those people. And I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna advocate now for the teachers, police officers, nurses, doctor, public sector
Right now,
work.
as you speak, right now, as you speak, we just heard the president of the Medical Doctors Association talking about the way they are being treated by the current finance minister after the way the first one treated them. Yeah,
Hmm.
that dispute that was a headline on the news a while ago.
Right. And I want to add one more. My favorite persons right now who I have pity for, which is the assistant directors of public prosecutors, the
Hmm.
prosecutors, the prosecution arms. They're not paid commensurate to the amount of files that they have. Defense attorneys are now even taking pity on them. I see in the
Hmm.
comments where persons are saying everybody got an increase, so I'm putting out misinformation. You are the expert. I want you to give me the disparity for clarity, the disparity in the salary increases for the top persons versus the Trump change, as I would call it, for the public sector workers generally, and why is it that everybody broke? Yeah.
The majority of the public sector workers they had to hug up 20% over a 4 year period, while the people at the top they got 200 and 300% over the same period of time, and they are the ones that are doing the work, and that is why most of those people are migrating, and we have the skills drain. Yeah, so that is what really happened. They paid Ernst and Young $1 billion, which we are still questioning because that report has not been tabled before the parliament to get
Hmm.
to tell them how to do that. Now, this is the most inequitous way in which the public sector salary situation has been dealt with, and the people are still quarreling. The doctors and the nurses are still quarreling about what they got given the work that they have been doing, and that is why many of them, doctors, teachers, nurses, are migrating, and that is why the public is being treated so badly when they go for these basic social services, because the people who have to provide these services, they are not properly paid, and the system is underfunded.
But in context, the prime minister said that you get what you pay for. Therefore, the increase in salaries, especially for the politicians at large, was to ensure that the persons who are politicians are is to attract the brightest of the bright and the best of the best. Here we saw just this
Right?
week, and I'm putting it all in context. Just this week, a return of Dalrymple. We saw what appears to be no definition of jobs. We see an admission by the prime minister himself that his members of parliament is underperforming and they need to pull up their socks. We saw their Montague is his name. I think he's their chairman or something like that, and he's saying that
Hmm.
one of the reasons why the voter turnout is so low is because people are dissatisfied because they left out the people. And most importantly, just this week, as you said today, states of emergencies announced in St. Andrew South and Central. So we've gone back to wasting money with states of emergencies, as well as, you notice I'm conflating issues, as well as
Yeah, man.
it has been said, and this is the most important thing, that the salary scale, Jamaica is like the lowest of the low. So
Hmm.
we are the poorest of the poor in terms of salaries in comparison to our sisters or our neighbors in the Caribbean. Our salaries are very
Only
low. Hmm.
only 80 in the Caribbean is below Jamaica. Only 80 in the Caribbean is below Jamaica.
It's below Jamaica, and Haiti is
Yeah, man.
a separate class in terms of a
Right.
very uniquely positioned Caribbean island.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Right.
comment on that, more wholesome, the conflation. If I need to repeat, just let me know.
All right. So the problem is that the system in general is underperforming and the people are dissatisfied because the provision of basic social services is woeful. The Prime Minister just declared the roads a national emergency after Daryl Vaz has been pressuring him to do that, to declare the roads as a national emergency. The country's infrastructure, road infrastructure, river infrastructure, bridge infrastructure, hospital infrastructure, school infrastructure, everything is in a state of dereliction because of the poor performance of the administration. the Jamaican administration, the administrators in Jamaica, Jamaican politicians are the highest paid politicians in the Caribbean. The Prime Minister's salary is almost near to that of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. Yet the Jamaican economy is one of the worst performing economies in the Caribbean. So there's no correlation between the salaries of the people at the top and the productivity of the country. Right. Now you spoke about Jamaican workers being the lowest paid in the Caribbean. Jamaican workers put out the lowest output in the Caribbean. So we have 3.6% unemployment, but the economy is in a recession at the same time. That is contradictory to the law of economics. If you have the lowest level of unemployment, the economy is supposed to be booming, and what we're supposed to be doing is to try to contain inflation. The economy is supposed to be overheating. So if your car is full of gas and it is working properly and you're pressing the pedal, the car is supposed to be moving faster. So although we have the majority of our people working, 3.6% unemployment, the economy is in a recession because output is low, because our human capital is not properly trained, and they are not doing any value added work. Simple.
And I'm glad you said that, because this 3.6 percent, want to put it into context. Is
Mhm.
it genuine reflection when they characterize work as wiping windows at Devon House for 1 hour is sufficient to say you're a part of the working class?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because almost 45% of those who are working, we have some 1.49 people working. The labor force is 1.461 million, 1.49 million people were working as at the end of July. 338,200 of those people are either wiping car glasses or selling rugs or selling sweets. And we have 265,200 working in wholesale things, wholesale enterprises of Mr. Chin. We know that pay. 201,000 people in agriculture using machetes and hoes and those things. 153,000 persons working in BPO are selling the 30 million houses that cannot sell. Right? So that's where our labor force is concentrated. We have no people working in value added thing. Again, we had some 640,200 people were outside of the labor force. 299,800 of them were between the ages of 15 and 24. We have some 67,000 persons 25 to 34 years outside of the labor force. 43,900 are 30, between the ages of 35 and 44 years. 49,000 between the ages of 45 and 54 years. Only 177,000 of the persons outside of the labor force were retired. So the Jamaica's human capital has been devastated because of the lack of expenditure on education and training. And that is why, although we have the 3.6% unemployment, the economy is in a recession because we're not doing any value added or skilled work. It's just hustling.
I'm glad that you said that, because I wanted to add to that, or comment to that, the fact that the PSOJ, for those who don't know, the private sector of Jamaica is saying that we need to import skilled labor, and there has to be something in place to allow them to bring in workers from abroad to come and fill the spaces. In the context that
And we,
the Norman Manley International Airport, there was some job for a parking lot attendant, and you needed two things: a degree, that is a bachelor, or
mhm.
the equivalent to park cars, as well as be bilingual. That is at least know how to speak or navigate Spanish, a second language per
Right,
se.
right.
Help me out,
And we are
help
saying
me.
that we reject that notion because we are saying we have some 1.461 million people in our labor force who need training, and we have another 694,200 persons outside of the labor force, 300,000 of which should be in the labor force, which need training. So we have 1.9 million people that needs training. Yeah. So we need to train our own people because if we can't pay them well, how is it that we're going to bring foreigners here? Because we have to go to pay the foreigners, we have to pay them more, and we have to pay them in foreign exchange, and we'll have to provide housing and all of those things. So we believe that's a very bad idea. What we need is a massive training program in Jamaica rather than the giveaways that we're doing.
Hmm.
Yep.
The Right. I'm so putting that into context. You're saying the labor force is here; they just need training, and there need to
They
be
just
an
need
investment
training.
in training.
Precisely. Yeah, man.
Response that is the private sector saying we don't have time to train them because our economy is suffering. So how do you marry the two? Because the government is saying we have put Jamaica in the best place that it can be. So what would be your comment in terms of using the juxtapose or putting all those things together? Where are we economically, and is it that this government is incapable of doing something realistic in terms of
Well, I'll say to you,
forward?
well, and I'd say to you that the economic situation, the country is almost in a recession, which is not a good place to be. So, although you have 3.6% unemployment during a recession, that tells you that your human capital is not adding value. That tells you that your human capital needs a whole lot of training. That's A. B. The country's infrastructure is in a state of devastation. The Prime Minister himself just said that the road situation is an emergency after prompting by his Transport Minister, Daryl Vaz, right? So that's another problem. Infrastructure. You can't be productive if your infrastructure is rotting. The country's health sector is also in a state of devastation. Yeah? The country's education system is also in a state of devastation. The only thing that is going good is that the debt to GDP ratio is coming down faster than it should come down at the expense of all of those things.
Right. All right. So the the government now is saying has declared the roads. So there's a state of public emergency
Emergency.
for the road. Putting that in context, they can't fight crime, so they say we need a state of public emergency. But they have campaigned, certainly in Portland Eastern, and they have said, "Road, I put down carpets," and then over the last 2 weeks, the water came and washed away all the carpets away. So those carpets clearly were indoor, dry weather roads. So why is there a
Yeah,
state of
man.
emergency? And was it a waste of money? The I want to say poor construction or pothole fixing, because I can tell you some of these potholes are legitimately the same potholes that show themselves every time the rain falls.
I agree. So the work is very poor. So we need to find a way to do the work properly. You're correct. The work is being poorly done, and a whole lot of taxpayers' money is being wasted. So we need to ensure that the work is done properly. So you're correct. We are not spending enough on what we are spending. We are not getting value for money. Simple.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. There was a campaign that they at one time the prime minister was the builder. Though
Yeah,
he
man.
was demolished, though he was demolishing houses where necessary and removing squatters and doing everything, and went around giving a one house here and there. They said he's built the most
Hmm.
houses in one term. He's a builder. He built the roads, and we're giving roads. And the Spark program was launched today. In light of what you said, the what is it, $42 billion, a whole lot of money in terms of going out to the roads. And you look at the schedule for the roads, it is going to be um fixing roads that were already fixed, money, billions of
Hmm.
dollars spent on carpet laid. um Marcus Garvey Drive is a road I can tell you about that. From Hagley Park right down, they had spent so much money on it without installing drains,
Hmm.
and it's a
Right.
riverbed every time. Now, in terms of that, on an accountability tip, and for if they spent the last 9 years saying they're building infrastructure and now declaring the very infrastructures that they spent the last 9 years building and excluding the people a state of emergency, isn't this an abject failure?
Correct. That's the exact phraseology that I was going to use. It's an abject failure. Similarly, in 2016, they said that they'll grow the economy by 5% after 4 years. After 9 years now, the economy is declining by 2.8%. Another abject failure.
Okay. The Tax Office of Jamaica, that's TAJ, um,
Hmm.
they said, hold on, everybody, hold your horses. We know your finance minister was giving you guys a little flavor, and your prime minister was excited all the people who are approved, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't banking on the $20,000 because that can buy nothing in the supermarket, literally. But
Yeah,
yet
man.
people cursing that I'm out there begging GoFundMe and raising more than $20,000 is a problem for them. But the tax office says, hold on, nobody now get no money for Christmas. So if you wanted your two front teeth for Christmas, you now get nothing. Is that an indication that it was a step in the right direction and probably just another three-card man trick?
Well, we spoke to people from the tax office. What they're saying is that there's some computer program problem at the accountant general's office, and they are trying to work through the system. So they're asking the people to be patient. So far, they have dispersed some 5.8 billion of the 11.4 billion. So what they're saying is just a computer glitch. So they're asking the people to hold on a bit, and they expect to sort out that by the end of this week or next week. But the
Okay.
overall scheme is a bad scheme because I'm saying that money could have been used for better purposes in Jamaica. It could have been used to rehabilitate the agricultural sector in order to reduce the food import bill from the 1.13 billion to which it jumped during the first 7 months of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Better spend of the money. It could have been spent to expand the hard trust and train more of our people. Yeah, this is just a kind of giveaway, and we do not appreciate that.
Okay, very well. I'm thinking, or I am wondering whether moving forward, and not just a campaign thing, but whether or not you have a comment on Nigel Clarke now being a part of the IMF, if I'm saying that correctly, and the effect it would have on Jamaica.
No effect whatsoever. He has no capacity to change the IMF policy. The IMF is run by the US Treasury, Under Secretary of International Affairs, a man named Jake Samba. He reports to Janet Yellen, and Janet Yellen reports to the US Congress. So the US has the biggest share in the IMF, followed by China, Japan, and the European Union. They are the ones who determine policy in conjunction with the US Treasury. So it's just a propaganda and a lie to give the impression that he can do anything at the IMF. No.
Okay. Now, in terms of representation, and this is when it comes to economics, the finance. Well, I should ask you: is the finance minister a crucial part of governance? The ministry itself.
Certainly. He's supposed to be the number two man or woman.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If that is the case,
And hold on. His
yeah.
responsibility is not only to bring down the debt. His responsibility is to ensure that the financial system is managed properly, so there's no SSL, and if there's an SSL, it is his responsibility to sort it out. His responsibility is to ensure that the economy is growing and growing in an equitable way. Yeah. So his overall.
You're gonna have to repeat that, Mr. Hyman, because
Right. So
yeah,
his
you have to
overall
repeat.
responsibility is, yeah, the finance minister is the number two man. His
Okay.
overall responsibility is to ensure
The devil is a lie, messing with the internet.
yeah, again, repeat. He's the
Yes.
number two man. His overall responsibility is to ensure that the financial system is safe and sound. So if we have an occurrence like SSL, his job is to fix it before he departs. Additionally, his responsibility is also to ensure that the economy grows, that inflation is kept stable, and that the quality of life of the people is improved and poverty is reduced. Clarke only focused on one side of that responsibility, and that is to bring the debt to GDP ratio down, and that means that he has fallen way short of what is required of a finance minister.
Mm. And in terms of there was many talk about um, you know, representational politics and people actually voted for him and his departure being so sudden. You have any comment on that, or is it that that's much ado about nothing?
No, it's not much ado about nothing because he left a whole lot of things unfinished. The public sector reform wasn't finished. He left the economy in a recession. There was a massive trade deficit. The trade deficit under his stewardship was about 33 billion US dollars, or 150% of GDP. The population census has still not been completed. That was a very bad move. Yeah. Left a whole lot of unfinished business. I left the economy in a poor state.
All right. Now, in terms of the messaging, there's so much information. We're in a political climate, so
Mm-hmm.
it's there's this belief that the opposition is not doing enough, and there's this cry about 18 years, the PNP 18 years, and FINSAC, and the prime
Mm-hmm.
minister went as far as saying, I will not allow the country to be put back in the hands of the People's National Party because I'm doing so well. And 18 years. The average, if you're 18 now, you have never experienced the 18 years of the People's National Party.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add 5 years to that, meaning if you're 1 to 5, you probably have no memory whatsoever, and it never affected you whatsoever. In other words, you can't enter the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What is your comment, thought, if any, on FinSac and the
Well,
use of, especially in light of the fact that there was a report that was to come out that has never been done and millions of dollars was spent on it?
okay. Well, let me explain. The whole thing about FinSac, what the people are doing, they are trying to project FinSac as the problem. FinSac, or the Financial Sector Adjustment Company, was created on January 27, 1997 by the former Finance Minister Dr. Omar Davies. What FinSac did was to take the bad debts from the banking system and give them fresh money and try to sell the assets in order to get back the taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
FinSac ensured that everybody who had insurance policies and their bank accounts got back their money, and the government hugged up that money, 140 billion, or 40% of gross domestic product, or the total final value of all final goods and services were produced at that time. So
Mhm.
FinSac was the solution to the problem. FinSac was not the problem. You follow me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Without FinSac, the entire economy would have gone bankrupt. Yeah. So that is what FinSac did. And we never had to borrow any money in order to deal with that problem. Now, after FinSac, that was the last time in Jamaica the economy grew by 3%. FinSac was in 2000, in 2007, when the People's National Party administration left government. That was the last time the economy grew by 3%. Inflation was 5% at that time. So inflation now is just a percentage point below where it was after FinSac. The debt to GDP was 115% at that time. Omar Davies brought it down from 260% under the JLP administration in 1989 to 115% after FinSac. Poverty was 9% after FinSac. Poverty is now 20%. Unemployment was 9% after FinSac. Yeah? At that time, the country, we paid off the IMF and left the IMF. We never went back to the IMF until 2010 under the JLP administration because they mismanaged the global economic crisis and told the people that the global crisis would have helped Jamaica.
Mm.
The prime minister was also associated with somebody who borrowed money and said they forgot to pay it in under the FinSac thing.
I'm glad you said that because it just feel like we are history is repeating itself. Here we are again under 9 years of the Jamaica Labour Party, and the economy, the economy. You are gonna borrow. I think I said it first. I can't even say I borrowed from you, but abject failure is what we have here, and a lot of it doesn't even matter what the promises are, and it doesn't matter about the feed a man for a day and because they never beg it, people can't. All right, so poverty is the original crime. It is difficult for persons who are experiencing poverty and finding it difficult to get money in their pocket. I don't know where they get the love from, but they certainly need the money in the pocket. So they can say, Dennis Brown, I can't get no love, but they can get the money, so they don't know to sing that song. Putting that in context is that it seems like these things are niceties, and it all sounds so fancy when it's coming out of the politician's mouth. But when these things, when the time comes for it to be doable, for instance, the JPS thing, the average person, if you pay your bill early, you will get that $250 no matter what the bill is. The
Mm-hmm.
average person is getting a break of about $250 to $300 the
Yeah.
most.
If you pay on time. Mm-hmm.
If you pay on time, you get that. And what the prime minister or the minister of finance is proposing, it's about that. It's about the same $200, but they're saying that, from a utilitarian concept, it will benefit the economy. What I need to know is,
No, that's not going to have any significant benefit on the economy. You know, in 2016,
yes,
you never paid any GCT on electricity unless you were using more than 300 kilowatts. No?
right. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you said,
Under the
yeah,
under the post-Sin similar administration, when we had less fiscal space.
right.
Now he's asking you to pay 7% on 200 kilowatt hours. He's not doing anything for you.
Okay, okay. But for the man who have to buy
You
digital
follow me?
credit,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying, for the man who have to buy digital credit for way more than that, and not picking on digital, but them says a bigger, better network. I'm just using one, our flow. You have to buy flow credit, and you have to, this is the hand to mouth method of living. There is something called the informal economy, and I'm transitioning because I see needs being pushed again, and you need to be in a system where they're attempting to go cashless, but at the same time, persons have no cash, and the informal economy is where they get the hustle. So majority of persons are hustling to stay alive. Um, how does that fare out when these benefits are not real, and they're saying this is something the government is doing, and the opposition is just talking? How do you respond to that so the people can understand that a lot of these things are literally much ado about nothing, and it has nothing to do with individual benefit or expanding the economy or increasing or advancing the life of the common man?
Well, the people understand that very well, and that is why people are turned from the system, and the people are.
Gonna ask you to repeat that. Let me go to the break right now.
Right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
All right. Are we back now?
Yeah, man, we're back.
All right. Yeah. You were saying no. Just we were talking about the economy, and you were pretty much giving us your take on the nuances. If you could just repeat what you were saying.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that the people fully understand that the system is not working for them. And that is why the slogan is no better than that. And that is why you have the lack of participation in the political system. This government was elected by 21% of the people. The opposition got 16%. Because the people say in order for them to vote, and that is why vote buying becomes so important. The people are saying that you have to pay them to vote because the system is not working for them. After the elections, there's nothing for them. So they have to get them money before the elections
The actual report, right?
because they say the system is not working.
All right. In terms of looking when you said the vote buying, we know vote buying is illegal, and we hear about it. Don't know how true it is. Not being facetious when I say that, but people complain about it a lot. The spending of money, vote buying, and this is the hypothetical, and I just wanted to address it. If somebody pays $5,000 for voting, that's like 10 cents for the entire 5 years. Or if you can break it down from an economical standpoint, that
Mhm.
sell your vote, the danger of that, and whether or not the government is actually doing what it is supposed to do to advance the country. I know I sound like I'm repeating, but really want to have
No,
an.
you're correct. It's
Mhm.
a dangerous thing, but the people really because them say this thing is not working for them. So them just take the 5 grand now, buy some rum and bum, buy a special, and them really in a business with nothing. So if you hardly hear the young people are interested in relation to national affairs. And that's a very dangerous development in the country.
Mm-hmm. All right. There is a thought, and I'm trying to say this to be fair. If it is that the country is going in the wrong direction, there is no the economy is shrinking. Where is the money coming from to be able to embark on this Sparks program in with the mass fixing of roads um throughout Jamaica? My Ralston is frozen. So while we work that out, I'll say this. Persons who are on the live, reminding you again, let me know when you're back, Ralston. Oh, it seems like you're there. You heard my question?
No, go ahead again.
Yeah, I was saying, if
Please repeat.
the economy is shrinking, we're going in the wrong direction. Where is the government getting the money from to undertake such a expensive program such as the Spark program at a time when we need to be putting money in the hands of the people? Okay, seem to be gone again. That's a trick question, it's a very difficult question. But while we're at it, people, again, I have posted the GoFundMe information. For those of you who are here, you do what you can to support the Rescue East Portland support. The mission, of course, is to help the persons who experienced the flooding the other day, and the needs of the people of Portland Eastern. Because I can tell you, depending
Yeah,
on
yeah,
your back, Ralston.
yeah, the question was where's the government getting the money to?
To embark on the Spark program, in light of the fact that the people have needs that are not being met. Is this something that needs to be done in the absence of it being called a state of emergency? to justify using the
Yeah,
money.
Well, the money they are getting, the money that what they did the other day was just to sell from the
Your internet a beat them bad.
So that's what they are using, the money from the Norman Manley International Airport. That is what they are using to fund the Spark program
So is it that we
and to
no
give
longer
away the 11.4
okay? So is it that we no longer own Norman Manley International Airport?
billion.
Ralston, I don't know if you want to get closer to a router because we're totally losing you.
Yeah, man, I'm back now.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're using the money from the Norman Manley International Airport to fund the Spark with 11.4.
Mm. All right, so there we go again. Still having some issues. I don't know if you want to sign out and sign back in.
Yeah, I'm back
Internet.
in. I'm saying that they are using the money from the Norman Manley International Airport to fund the Spark program and to fund the $11.4 billion that they are giving away.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of the way forward for on an economic from an economic expert such as yourself, what are the things that in your view you think needs to be done to bring Jamaica to a place that it needs to be so that the people are in a position to um, have a chance, a fighting chance of living a life where they are included in the economy and can make a living?
All right. So the first thing we have to do is to change the focus of economic policy from debt reduction to production. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that we will slow the pace of debt reduction. We don't have to be using so much of our resources to pay down the debt. And then we need to pump those resources into agriculture, rehabilitating the road network, improving the country's infrastructure, put more money in education, provide more incentives to the private sector to invest in research and development and to export. So we want to have export led growth. If we're going to have export led growth, it means that we'll have to be investing more in the training of our labor force, investing more in science and technology, investing more in renewable energy, investing more in the rural road network, of a proper land utilization and allocation policy so that we can drive dynamic agriculture. Those are some things that we need to do. And we need to also diversify our trading partners because the US is now our major trading partner, and there's going to be significant economic instability in the US under the Trump administration come January 1, 2025. So we need to change focus, not just argument, we need to do it. Right now, the Prime Minister is just talking and going in the same direction.
Okay. So now, in terms of the other side of it, the Singapore was once a country that looked to Jamaica as a model to bring their country to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought on corruption and economy? So saving an economy in a space where corruption is evident, and can a government strive with corruption of this magnitude?
No, I don't have to deal with corruption. Crime and corruption costs us almost 10% of GDP annually. That's $320 billion. So there has to be a move concomitant with the move to switch to production from debt reduction. Has to be strong measures to deal with corruption in the country. Yeah. And we need more of our people to be talking about corruption rather than just to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because corruption is depriving the country at this particular point in time.
Okay. You have any thought on the Integrity Commission and what it needs to do and its role? And I'm
Well, I
saying this
believe.
before you go, I'm saying it in the context that tomorrow there is a court ruling expected
Mhm.
in relation to the Prime Minister and his challenge to the Integrity Commission authority under the Act
Mhm.
um, about the investigation of the illicit enrichment. Yeah, what's your thought?
I believe that the public of Jamaica must support the Integrity Commission. I believe that the public of Jamaica must be more strident against corruption. I believe that the Integrity Commission must be strengthened. Some people also believe that the Integrity Commission must have prosecutorial powers and do not have to rely on the DPP to prosecute a particular case because corruption is a big problem in Jamaica. And if we're going to save the economy, we have to deal with corruption.
Okay, all right, I can go for that. Now, there are several pockets now when it comes to different disciplines. Let's
Mhm.
talk about the teachers. I'm starting with the teachers because education is so significant. There was a time when under the Michael Manley government, access to education, especially tertiary education, was more realistic. I want to say free, I want to say easy, and as a result there are persons who have benefited from it now, and
Including myself.
see, there you go, and some of them are now in government and
Yeah.
not appreciating how we need to get back into having persons, get to the
Mhm.
education plane. I just wanted to address that in terms of how the teachers should be treated, the type of programs that need to be in place. Especially education is, to me, the key to curbing crime. From an economical standpoint, I want to know the strain of it for not paying the teachers and not providing the level of education that can wake the masses.
Right. I believe that the budget of the Ministry of Education should be increased, particularly the capital budget. The budget is now about 159 billion, and about 95% is for recurrent expenditure, that is day to day operations. We need to spend more on the capital budget. The Patterson report must be implemented. We still have some 37 or so schools on the shift system, which is inferior education. When you look at the Manning Cup and look at how it is played and the scores that you see, it tells you about the difference between the traditional high schools and the so-called new high schools, right? So we need to be pumping more resources in the capital budget of the Ministry of Education to reduce the number of schools that are on the shift system, and we need to pay our teachers much, much better and to provide them with more incentives and social upliftment in order to get them to perform. In other words, education must become pride of place again, like under the Michael Manley administration.
Mm,
That most of the technicians that are in the system now were trained under the Michael Manley administration, had access to tertiary education under the Michael Manley administration. Even the
oh,
Prime Minister was a beneficiary of the education policy of Michael Manley.
okay, and do you think in your mind that if we were to return to that, some of the economical woes that we're now experiencing would be softened? Don't know if you heard my question. You seem to be gone again. Are you hearing me? All right, people. While Mr. Hyman internet seems to be um shady and dodgy, we are gonna ask if you have had access to the GoFundMe account. I've been trying to pin it. I have it there pinned, but let me know if that's working for you. Mr. Hyman, I don't know if you heard my question. Let me know when you're back. Just give me a heads up there. And for me, I'm looking at the relationship between economic growth and the relevant disciplines and how the interrelation for lack of a better word, between the disciplines. For instance, if the teachers aren't paid properly, then the teachers won't be motivated to teach, especially when they are invited to have the necessary degrees and have the necessary qualifications. So they now have to go into the market, have the degrees to go and teach, and then the salaries is not commensurate to the degrees and the student loan. They're bogged down, and then you have what is known as brain drain. Everybody wants to do the Nigel, leave Jamaica for greener pastures. Ironically, Green Party. But yes, are you hearing me now, Mr. Hyman?
Yeah,
All right, yeah. I was saying, starting with the teachers.
that's a very big problem. And that is why we are saying we have to improve the quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm thinking it's that time of day when the internet is failing, and this is the opportunity to say, get your Starlink today if you want uninterrupted internet connectivity. Anyway, let me stop that. Elon must not pay me no money for that. Yeah. And if you're thirsty, you know it, go you drink pure water, right? Yallow. But yeah, any comment on somebody said basic school was not recognized until Michael Manley became prime minister and said that is where it begins. Um, that is true. What our focus should be versus what it is what is of utmost importance. So I am of the view, and I will just share this. Let me know if you guys are interested in calling in. Would like to hear what your thoughts on some of your thoughts and comments are. I am going to place the number, and you are free to call. Yeah. And we see how we can facilitate that. Now, we are on a radio station, Reggae Global Radio. We're also tuning into Coder Network, TikTok. I know I see you guys live in the comment section. This is a learning moment. I'm going to ask persons to have some respect, one, for our guests and for the people at large. There are children watching and learning. So if you do call, have something constructive to say. Freedom of speech is something that I hold dearly. So while you have your opinion, because this is a public broadcast and an international broadcast, don't be disrespectful. Mr. Hyman is back. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, internet giving trouble, Mr. Hyman. But if you can hear me, just let me hear what's going on.
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, man. I was asking basically about starting with the teachers, and then we would move on to the police and the soldiers and the motivation to give quality of work. I just want your comment on each discipline and what would need to be done for it to be better across the board for economic growth. Yes, hello.
To your viewers.
Yes.
I have a couple of things that I like to share, and this is Walking Divine Purpose.
Okay.
All right, first and foremost, Jamaican people, this is not about labor rights or PNP, right? We need to acknowledge the crisis that we're going through right now. The children, they are brain drained. At my daughter's school, not even the classroom, there are 52 students in one classroom. Teachers are not equipped to handle that. 1 teacher to 52 students, that is hard. And next thing, even get a car as a teacher, yes, they give us a percentage, but it's not enough. Food crisis, I went into the supermarket the other day, and 1 piece, it not even weigh a pound, of salt mackerel is almost $900. So where do we go from here? We need to understand that we're Jamaicans first before we start to think political. Andrew, Radam, Owners can't manage Jamaica. In team, them is a no team, them a 0. Them duns and foolish then, put it so. But we the people, we are hearing this, we need action. We have the power to stand up and fight for our country. This is not a one-man thing. This is not an ISAD thing. This is not a Mr. Hyman thing. This is our country. Jamaica gone to the grounds. Hotel workers working less than minimum wage when you calculate it. That cannot accommodate their family. Medical situation here in Jamaica is crazy. My mother was sick. She went to the hospital Monday and they told her that there's no bed at KPH. She came out and now I am mourning my dead mother. You understand me? Where do we go from here? We have to get up and fight. Because saying that, oh, Andrew, when Mr. Golden come in, we have to know that right now they're not the only one. Mr. Golden not going to be able to do certain things because Andrew had done the kitty. He had done the money and we're not on a road. So therefore the farmers, them either them to start plant that rice. We have a Basket Parish, St. Elizabeth. We have Portland. We have St. Thomas. But at the same time, before they can start to plant, what about the road? Because the road is terrible. Where are they going to bring in these items after they plant them? Everything is on the rise. I am doing a movement and I went downtown Carnation Market and they are selling the people meat that are expired. That is a health concern. That's how far Jamaica gone. But many people don't know these things. And for those who don't know, they don't want to talk because they can't get $5,000. We can't even buy something for the world of the week, just a day, because I'm not got. But I'm saying to us tonight, all of us, think about the children, think about the future, and think about what you can do. Vote PMP and hold them accountable because Jamaica land need us.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much, caller. Mr. Hyman, I don't know if you're hearing me. Thank you very much, caller. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you would prefer to call in, you can call in. You can use the number so we can continue to hear you because the internet is failing us at the moment. Right. The caller has expressed themselves. Kesu says one cannot unlearn what they learned, but they can deny, choose not to believe, and as well as Mr. Tavares, how you doing? As well as what they learned.
Good friend, how you doing?
I'm great,
Great program.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You have a comment, a question for Mr. Hyman? Any thoughts?
It's a comment I have.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
The comment is this, that Ralston Hyman has been an economist for many years.
Yes.
And all of us who is on this platform, we need to learn from this man. He's not talking as a PNP or as a JLP, he's talking as a Jamaican, a concerned Jamaican, and giving us figures of what is going on. And we all must sit down and listen and learn from it. As what this caller said, who just called in, this country is in a crisis. A crisis. $3 trillion is unaccountable for.
Mm-hmm.
And we sit down in this country and say nothing about it. I start continue doing a good work, my friend, and all the best up in East Portland.
All right, blessings. Thank you so much for your call. Yes, that is something to think about. But I just want to give one comment and let the public understand something. While Mr. Hyman attempts to make his way back online, or if he calls in, I'll be happy to take the call. When it comes to road and when it comes to water, I want people to know this. And I've said it and many persons have been upset about this. a road and water is something that a government is mandated to do. A functioning country would have road repair and budget for that, and no one gets rewarded for that. Carla, how you doing?
And it's a good program to listen to every morning from Power 106. Right?
Yes.
Now, how the economy is running, that is what Mr. Hyman debates on every day. Right? Now, we have $1 billion water import in the country, and where we export is $2 billion. How the country will operate in that manner when we not export enough, but yet still we are import. You can imagine $5 billion in between.
Mm-hmm.
No, come on, man. Maximum respect. I listen here every morning. Keep up the good work. Isaac, do your best.
All
Keep
right.
up the good work.
Blessings. Yeah? Blessings. All right. Mr. Hyman, can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm back.
All right.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Just in case, if you're still having trouble, you can just call into the number and you continue the conversation that way, because they really want to finish hearing from you.
All right.
But go ahead. Call a hold. Yes, in relation to the JCF and the teachers and just the respective disciplines, your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
The basic social services, water, roads, education, national security, those are the basic functions of the government. So those are the things that you must ensure that are done while you pay down your debt. What we had was a situation where the Minister of Finance paid the debt first, and whatever is left is spent on those things. There's a reason why the Minister of Finance has to be an elected official, because there's no taxation without representation. So the people's business must come first. What he did was the opposite. He did the business of the creditors first and then the business of the people. Yes. When we were doing the IMF agreement under Peter Phillips, the JLP consistently said that we were passing the IMF test or not passing the people's test. But that is exactly what Nigel Clarke did. Pass the IMF test to the extent that they gave him a job and not pass the people's test, where the country's infrastructure is crumbling and the country's human capital is hopeless.
Right. Caller, Mr. Hyman is on. Is your guest? You have a question for him?
No, I was talking pertaining to the roads.
Yes.
I grew up in St. Thomas. I thought my stepfather used to work with PWD, as I used to work there every summer. And I remember when the roads going to be fixed, even the set at Humphrey there in Jamaican area.
Mm-hmm.
That area carries a storm drain that protects all the water, so it takes the water off the property. I know because I remember years gone by, it used to white man do the engineering on that stretch of the road, because there's a river that they even turn up in the bush. And when they were doing the work, I was traveling into Kingston because I work in Kingston. I travel every day. And I noticed the gentlemen dig up, close the storm drain and leave. So the water is left, and even now they are fixing that stretch of road and all they are doing is raising the road higher. Also, in years gone by, St. Thomas is a sandy soil. As the rain falls, the water drain off within 15 minutes. You cannot believe that we had a heavy rain, that the place was flooded.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are having water for days on the road. Because one, we never used to use marl. Marl holds water.
Right.
Right? If gravel and sand used to run. My mother used to drop stone in the 1980s, 81, a button there, We used to drop stone in our Sunday time. But Chuck come take up some measure how much yard that stone you broke to the week or whatsoever, and you get your money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the road, and all of a sudden they have graded off But by Belvedere stretch, there's some going into Mars Day. When you go do anything, going to do anything, they closed out all those big drains that used to carry the water off the people. And they completely listen, I see them have somebody one in the rain that was doing the engineering work. That boy I got at primary school when me I got primary school when teaching and one I sat me and said like the boy under the plum tree play marble. And I in them up on the road as engineer. When we see him, I was so shocked. But I in an engineer.
I want you leave. I want you leave the engineer extraordinaire alone. You know, like
No, but I
no,
Thomas is currently flooded.
no, I'm glad. Carla, I'm so happy that you put that in. I'm so happy that you highlighted that because what we have here is a lot of short stops and stop gaps, and I keep raising it that after all that investment.
Listen,
yes.
Even though they are fixing the road, Isaac. Even though they are fixing the road, I still don't see a drain. They still have made no curb and channel, nothing like that to take the water. Nowadays, the water is on one side. When I used to go primary school at Grand Spend there, so water where them have the flowers farm across the gas station used to be flowers farm. Yes. Water used to come. People along that stretch never used to have to pay water permission because water was running in the channel there. All they have done is that them get some people to build road who build road only for the summer. Don't understand that Jamaican drain. Listen, you can't use Chinese to build drains in Jamaica because in China, Chinese man we see water clog up and the man come out and people roll up in jacket sleeve and clear the drain. The drains that they build are some little things. We have places within St. Thomas. You cannot be taking the sand from St. Thomas, carrying it to Ochi and putting it on barge and selling it somewhere else. And you're not using the same sand to build back the road. It's sand we used to use.
All right,
use the big stone and use the thing there and fix it. Marl will expand and the oil from where you put on it, the little tar or whatever you put over it, it's not going to last.
I'm glad that you put that in.
You have to go back over.
All right, I'm glad that you put that in context.
The last time we see a road from St. Thomas fixed properly, a company named Colas came to St. Thomas and fixed the road, and the problem is that the roads weren't maintained.
All right, Carla.
And that is when the road starts sinking.
Carla, we're doing economics more than road, but I do take your point that the proper if you do it properly the first time, you won't have to call a state of emergency on road and admit that you're not a builder. Somebody said that the young man is a marbler, not an engineer. Mr. Hyman, I can't let you go without addressing one of the most important things. So we have 2 billion worth of exporting and 7 billion import. So output lower than the input. Address the agricultural sector, especially in the context that Portland Eastern was the agricultural mecca when it comes to coconut, banana, planting, even coffee. All of a sudden, like the caller said earlier, water upon the road, none in the pipe. I want to express again before you comment that the roads are something that is mandatory. Nobody is rewarded for fixing roads. It's supposed to be done all across the island, and send you taxpayers are to say, send us the bill, you get no points for that. But I wanted to comment on the agricultural sector because it is they who feed us and a special care need to be given to them.
All right. What's going to happen now? The agricultural sector is about 8% of GDP. It employs 250,000 persons directly. Mm-hmm. When you add it with manufacturing, agro-processing, because a lot of what the manufacturers do, the spices and all of those things and the sauces, the inputs come from the agricultural sector. Yes. Manufacturing is about 10% of GDP. So between manufacturing and agriculture, we have 18% of GDP and 360,000 jobs. This government has no focus on agriculture and manufacturing. So what they do, they prefer to import. So the import lobby has control over this administration. So they pay very little attention to agriculture. So only 10% of the country's arable land are irrigated. The rural road network is in a total mess. So those are significant constraints to agriculture. And they're not fixing those problems. They rather to import. For the first 7 months of this year, we imported 1.13 billion US dollars in food and consumer goods, while the total exports from Jamaica was only 1.1 billion. So the total value of all we exported couldn't pay for the food bill alone. Yet alone, the 1.2 billion we bought in oil, 1.2 billion in raw materials and intermediate goods, 420 million in capital goods, and 370 million in non-productive motor vehicles. So for the first 7 months, the trade deficit, the difference between merchandise imports and exports, was $3.261 billion because we're not focused on any form of production. So our next administration, in order to contain the high levels of criminality in the rural areas and to ease the pressure on the dollar, we'll have to focus on scientific agriculture. Stop using the agricultural land to plant houses. So we have to use our arable lands, our flat lands to mechanize agriculture. We have to fix the rural road network. We have to invest in processing. We have to ensure that the agricultural sector can get the cheap loans that the persons get in the tourism sector. Persons in the tourism sector can get money at 4.5% from the Exim Bank. Agriculture can't get any money. So we have to find credit for agriculture. We have to put the lands to the people. We have to stop using the agricultural lands for housing. We have to build out the rural road network. That is how we're going to be able to deal with the problems of criminality in our rural areas. So if you notice, criminality has switched from the urban to the rural areas because there's nothing for the people to do.
All right. What has the government been doing though? Especially you have the water problem, that's Matthew Samuda. I have the agricultural stuff, and they have been talking about agri roads, and you see where Floyd Green is bragging about these roads that are being fixed, the agricultural roads and stuff like that, Rada and company.
Way below capacity. You have more talking than action. Way below capacity. Even if you look in the Blue Mountain Range, where the coffee industry is, there are no roads. Roads are crumbling in those areas. We have been talking to Floyd Green every day about those roads. There are no roads in those areas. So it's a gross underspending. They are spending less than $1 billion on the rural agricultural roads. So all of the money that we spent on the highways, we should spend more on those. The 11.4 billion that we're giving away, that money would be better spent in rehabilitating the rural road network and providing some credit for the farmers.
Right.
Because it's about misplaced priorities. We're putting politics in front of the economy.
So here, I anticipate, and I don't have my rings on, so nobody can say I took a visit to St. Thomas. But the government of the day will change at the next election. So Matt Golden will be the next prime minister. The finance minister I anticipate to be the Julian Robinson. Now, with the missing money, as I'm seeing in the comments, what is it that what will the incoming government be facing realistically with the missing money and the expenditure from the states of emergency, states of road emergency, high crime society, all of that? The salary increase versus the ineffective salary, and then we have an auditor general that just keeps saying, "Hey, odd pay make the food and the supplies mold up and spoil up." Every ministry, every agency should go in is wholly inadequate. What will the new government be facing, in your estimation?
Well, the new administration will be facing a very tight situation. And what is happening is that when they come in, they can't cut expenditure because the people need more spending, and they can't raise taxes. So what they'll have to do is to function more efficiently, and probably they'll have to borrow some more money. And that is why we're always saying to Nigel Clarke, it is pointless you pay down the debt before time, wreck the place, and then when our next administration, or if you continue, you'll have to borrow more money in order to rehabilitate the thing. So it's like if you have your house, you owe the bank, you
Yes.
pay the bank most of your money, don't rehabilitate your house, then the house run down, and they'll have to go back to the bank to borrow more money. So Nigel
Right.
Clarke was running the economy in a way that we can get money to borrow rather than being productive. So the next administration, they won't have any honeymoon, so they can't come and tell the people that they're going to cut spending. They can't raise taxes on the people because the people have all of these needs. They want better hospitals, they want better schools, they want better roads, right? So
Yes.
what the next administration have to do is to focus on
Go on, Paulo.
slowing down the payments on the debt, spending more on education, rehabilitating the agricultural sector, getting the interest rates down so that the people, the private sector can get more money to borrow from the banking system, so that the private sector can raise more money from the stock exchange because the government will have all the resources to do all of the work. So you'll have to have a greater jointure between the private sector and the government in funding the economy. So the government will have to ensure that taxpayers' money is spent properly, tight leash. They'll be on a tight leash. They can't cut spending, they can't raise taxes, so they have to get better value for the money. The option that they have is to reduce the pace at which they are paying down the debt, because we are now down to almost debt to GDP of about 64%. There's no hurry to go any further. None of the big economies in the entire world that we love to talk about have any debt to GDP of 60%. The UK is 100%. America is 123%. China is 280%. Japan is 253%. The European Union is 87%. India is 87%. Those are the economies that are doing well. You know what caused the fall of the French government? Michel Barnier wants to get the debt to GDP ratio down from 114% and the fiscal deficit from 6% to 5%. So what he was doing is trying to push 60 billion in tax increases and expenditure cuts, and the people rejected it. The same thing is happening in Korea. You with me? Because the people, the government will have to spend to provide the basic social services, the basic responsibilities, water, education, housing, fire services, roads, right? So that is what the government will have to be focusing on, providing basic social services, getting the interest rates down, because a very interesting situation. The Bank of Jamaica has reduced its benchmark rate, that is signal rate. The Bank of Jamaica gives a signal to the members of the private sector where it wants interest rates to go. That rate was 7%, and the Bank of Jamaica has reduced it from 7% to 6.25%. But none of the banks have passed on that reduction to their clients. So the cost of credit to the private sector is still very high, and that prevents investments in certain areas. Similarly, when interest rates are high, people do not go to the stock exchange. They go and buy government paper, right? CDs, treasury bills, and all of those things. So there is no productive investments when interest rates are high. So the next administration will have to find a way to get the banking sector to comply with a reduction in interest rates by the central bank. Yeah.
Right.
So we need a better management of the financial sector. This government has managed the financial sector poorly because it is conflicted.
Right. Caller, you heard Mr. Hyman around. What is your question or what is your comment?
Mr. Hyman.
Yes.
Yes, good evening.
Mr. Hyman, as an
Yes.
economist, okay, and we see what Nigel Clarke has done, and this government, JLP government, keep on saying, oh, they have had the best finance minister. And yet he brought the country so low, and the economy, with what he has done, and his mismanagement of the entire financial sector. Now, you believe that he should be brought back to give an answer as to why things go the way it goes under his management. Because it was obvious that something was wrong and going on.
But I was consistently telling the people of Jamaica that he didn't know what he was doing. And people were saying that I was bad-minded against him and all of that. I was consistently telling the people that he don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, but at least this was good bad mind.
I've never heard good bad mind caller. Thank you so much for your call. Oh, you don't done. Go ahead. Continue.
No, I was not going to belong.
Go ahead.
Mr. Hyman, he should come back. He should be brought back to answer some real serious questions of how we manage the economy. Okay.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I agree.
Now, the billions of dollars that has been missing from the government treasury, how long will it take the new government to come on board and get everything settled back? How long do you believe this will take? And then again, where all that money comes from to bring the economy and the country back on level? Because the borrowing, the borrowing is something else. The borrowing put us more in more debt and years to pay it back. So how is this government going to manage? Is there money there for the government to even start to begin?
All right, caller, let Mr. Hyman answer. Please, sir. Yes, he's going to answer. Just listen for the answer. Go ahead, Mr. Hyman.
Well, as I said, it is going to be a very difficult task because the economy is at a particular point and they can't raise taxes because the people are already overtaxed. Jamaica has one of the highest tax rates in Latin America and the Caribbean comparable to the European Union, right? And they can't cut spending. So what they'll have to do, and it's going to be very tough, so the people have to understand, and that is why they need to explain what is it that they are taking over. Earlier in the program, I said, you said to me that the people are saying that the PNP has not done enough. I am one who believes that they have not done enough to explain what they did over the last 18 years, what they inherited from the JLP administration in 2016, and how is it, what is the current state of the economy. I believe that they need to go on the road more and to explain to the people, because when they come in, there'll be no honeymoon. And people are going to say, boy, I want to take it over and want to make it worse. Yeah, because of the current state. So they need to explain to the people what is the current state of the economy, because things are going to be tough when they come in, and it is going to take a very long time to rehabilitate the situation. So they'll have to spend more efficiently. They'll have to get the interest rates down so that the private sector can get access to affordable capital, particularly the people in farming. They'll have to come with a proper energy policy so that we can reduce the cost of energy, because energy cost is one of our biggest import bill. They'll have to get the tourism sector to be more integrated with the rest of the economy. So it means that the hotels must buy more food from the local farmers. It means that they must buy more of the things from the local manufacturers. It means that the transportation system within the hotel must go back to the local people. They'll have to have a whole lot of work to do.
Yes, continue. I don't know what happened just now, but go ahead. Mr. Hyman.
Yeah, so it's not going to be easy. So they need to explain to the people now, because the people are not going to give them any honeymoon when they come in, because the people are desperate now. They are desperately seeking solutions.
Okay. We are almost at the end of the show, so there's some takeaways that I think I want to just ask in terms of what you have done, and your knowledge of this area is invaluable. And I'm going to say valuable. In fact, you are just dubbed as the good bad man. I don't know what that but as a good bad mind, Mr. Hyman. I just in terms of the narrative, because social media has a way of using PR and using incompetence to educate the masses, indoctrinate the masses. I just want reality. I am always of the view, and from a human rights perspective, on the world index, you would have to be earning about $600,000 a month to live as a human being across the world. How would we ever get there in the Jamaican space, especially for the public sector workers that I am advocating for, the police, the teachers, the doctors, the prosecutors, and what is our reality in light of that? Because the PNP has their work cut out, and what it is that we can do separate from the PNP to have voter awareness, human rights consciousness as to the reality that we're living in from an economical standpoint.
Well, it's about more education. We have to go into the schools. We have to. It is a kind of Michael Manley type approach. That's the approach that Michael Manley had in the 1970s.
Yes.
Yeah, education. We have to go back to civics. We have to teach people what it is to be like a citizen of our country. All those things we have to go back to. We have to increase our productivity levels. We have to produce more. We have to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we have to comprehensively educate our people as to how the world is structured. Yeah, so all those things we'll have to do so that we have a greater awareness of our people as to what is required in order to pay our way through the current international environment, because we're operating in a turbulent international environment. We can't be insular. I'm talking about Jamaica. Jamaica is just a 20 billion economy, in an economy that is $105 trillion, dominated by the USA with 29 trillion, the European Union with 19.4 trillion, China with 18 trillion. So we have to look at the big picture. We have to have leaders that are expansive, as expansive as Michael Manley. We do not have that kind of leadership running the country at this particular point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is an articulation problem. I want to say that I appreciate the learning that you have brought to us today. I'm genuinely saying this because I tell people this all the time. This topic is the law versus economics. The people can see for themselves where it is that somebody has competence in law. There may be an extreme dunce when it comes to another discipline.
Precisely.
It's very. I just want your comment on whether or not you experience any frustration having to tackle persons who are not as versed in your expertise, your area, and the disruption in disseminating proper information to the masses. This is critical. So I just want that's the thought I need from you.
Well, one of the things that we have in the country is that the people on the ground, they're always saying this is for the bigger heads, because they make the assumption that the bigger heads understand most of these things. Economics is a subject that not many people understand. Not even the Prime Minister, not even Nigel Clarke understood economics. So it is a form of unconscious incompetence. So that is why we want to break these things down, that our people understand. And that is why we're saying that the opposition will have to go into the town halls and all of those things and talk to the people and talk to them and tell them how the world is run, how the economy is run, break down the thing so that they understand, because there's a lack of understanding why the people have been putting up with all of this slackness. Yeah. And there's a form of unconscious incompetence in terms of the administrations and many of the technicians and many of the so-called analysts who were going around and telling the people that everything was all right and that Jamaica is on the right track. Many of them don't understand what they're talking about. So it's a big problem. We need to educate our people more in terms of economic matters, in terms of social matters, in terms of global matters. One of the problems with Jamaican leaders is that they do not understand the international environment. So I heard the Prime Minister making a presentation which he called Pivot, and he never once mentioned the international environment. It's as if Jamaica is an underground tunnel. He never once said anything about what is happening in the US, what is happening on the global sphere. And that is why we're always behind, because we do not understand the international economy and how the international economy functions.
Right.
So education.
All right. I'm gonna leave it there and say thank you so much for joining, Mr. Hyman. Your contribution is, as always, in any space that you are, invaluable. I'm stressing that. Can you tell us how to contact you, how to find you, and continue to listen to you as you do your part to educate the masses?
Well, you can all hear me every day on Power 106. Yeah, Real Business. There's a program that we call Real Business that is some 20 years old, where we cover the entire local, regional, and international economy. every day between the hours of 9 and 11:30. Every single day, we tell you every single thing about the international economy.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. Contextualizer. This was Context Matters for November 5th, 2024. Tomorrow is a big day. The Prime Minister will either put up or shut up or have a fighting chance for his 28 bank accounts and more. Next week is my birthday and Portia's birthday, December 12th. So Context Matters going to turn up because the birthday fall on that day. Mr. Hyman, thank you so much again for joining. And that's it for Context Matters. See you guys next week. Continue to contribute to the GoFundMe account. This is UPT begging. You know how we do. Tap up the screen and share the live. Reggae Global
Always
Radio.
a pleasure, man. Yeah, man. Right. Anything for the Jamaican people. Blessings.
Blessings.
Yeah, man. All right.
All right.
Big up, Jayut.
Definitely.
It takes some time to understand, yeah, just what it takes to be a man. Now it seems each day you learn something to make a better way. Like growing up ain't just a phase, it's reality. And sometimes it's hard to face the world with your head screwed on. But in time you will see it comes naturally, like the hurt and the pain. It's a part of the game. It's all a part of life. To laugh and to cry, that's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way. But if you need a helping hand, just call on me, I will be your friend. And when it gets hard to face the world with your head screwed on, just tell yourself you can. And that's when you'll understand that the hurt and the pain, it's a part of the game. It's all a part of life. To laugh and to cry, that's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You gotta keep on moving on. Don't let no one stand in your way. Gotta keep on pressing on. As we pray for better days, keep it moving. Moving to the next. When they try to bring you down, we gotta take it to the next level when they come around. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. Just keep your head up, yeah. Just keep your head up, yeah. Gotta keep your head up, yeah. Cause everything's gonna be alright. Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Cause everything